Women don't respond to what you promise. They respond to what you project with asking. Niccolò Machiavelli. There is a psychological paradox that Niccolò Machiavelli observed over 500 years ago in the royal courts of Europe, and it remains disturbingly relevant today. A paradox that explains why some men naturally command attention, respect, and desire, while others, despite good intentions, are consistently overlooked or quietly placed in the friend zone. The paradox is simple to understand, but difficult to accept. Women are not attracted to what you do for them. They are attracted to who you are without them. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 psychological principles rooted in Machiavellian thinking that can transform an ordinary man into a magnetic presence. But be warned, the 7th principle is so counterintuitive, so opposite to what most men have been taught, that it will likely make you uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly why it works. Stay until the end, because that final principle is the one that changes everything. Before we begin, let me address something important. The statistics on this channel reveal something interesting. Thousands of you watch these videos all the way through. You absorb the ideas, reflect on them, and likely apply them in your own lives, but you leave no visible trace, no like, no comment, no subscription. If this content is genuinely adding value to your life, if these psychological frameworks are improving your interactions, take 3 seconds right now to like the video and subscribe. Why does this matter? Because YouTube's algorithm responds to one fundamental signal: engagement amplifies reach. Every like, every comment, every subscription sends a signal that allows this knowledge to reach more men who need it. We're not just building a channel. We're building a community of men who reject mediocrity and understand the real dynamics of attraction. Show your presence. Act now. Let's begin. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that men generally judge more with their eyes than with their hands, because everyone can see, but very few can truly feel. What he meant is this: social life is performance, a stage, a form of theater. The truth is revealed not by words, but by behavior, especially when people believe no one is watching. Applied to attraction, this insight exposes something fundamental. There is often a gap between what women consciously say they want and what their deeper psychology actually responds to. Not because of dishonesty, but because attraction is not rational. It is visceral, instinctive, and shaped by evolutionary forces far older than modern social norms. The man who understands this distinction, who learns to communicate on the level of authentic attraction rather than surface-level expectations, achieves results most men never will. Principle 1. Independent wholeness. This first principle is the foundation of everything that follows, and it's the one most men violate without realizing it. You must be psychologically complete before seeking a relationship. Not mostly complete, not almost there, fully complete. In practical terms, this means your happiness, purpose, and self-worth cannot depend on female validation. The moment a woman senses that you need her to feel whole, something primitive shuts down. Why? Because evolution has conditioned women to seek men who provide stability, direction, and security. A man who needs her to feel complete cannot offer those things. Psychologically, he shifts from equal partner to dependent figure, and attraction fades. This shows up everywhere. The incomplete man cancels important plans the moment she becomes available. He checks his phone compulsively, waiting for replies. His emotional state rises and falls based on her attention. He abandons his goals, friendships, and interests to prioritize her. The complete man is different. He already had a fulfilling life before she arrived: strong friendships, meaningful pursuits, ambitions that pull him forward. She doesn't step into a void. She steps into momentum. And momentum is magnetic. Instead of asking, "Does he like me?" she starts wondering, "Can I be part of this life?" That shift changes everything. You cannot fake this. You must build a life that genuinely fulfills you. Identify 3 areas that energize you when no one is watching. Not what impresses others, what genuinely absorbs you. It could be physical training, a business, a creative skill, or personal mastery. These pursuits exist independently of any relationship. They anchor your identity. When you are truly anchored, something powerful happens. You stop chasing, not as a tactic, but because your attention is already invested elsewhere. And that absorption is one of the strongest attraction signals a man can project. Principle 2. Polarizing authenticity. This principle directly contradicts modern conditioning. You're taught to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to seek approval. That path leads to invisibility. Machiavelli understood that the man who tries to please everyone ends up pleasing no one. When you erase your edges, suppress your opinions, and make yourself harmless, you also make yourself forgettable. Polarizing authenticity means having clear values and expressing them without apology. It means being willing to lose approval from those who were never aligned with you. This is powerful because authenticity is rare. In a world of social masks and filtered personalities, the man who is unapologetically himself becomes intriguing. Women are not searching for perfection, they are searching for truth. Most men agree with everything she says. They avoid disagreement to maintain surface harmony. They believe this builds connection. It doesn't. It builds boredom. The authentic man can disagree calmly and confidently, not to provoke, but because it's his genuine perspective. I see your point, but I view it differently. Here's why. That grounded certainty creates respect, tension, and interest. This is not about being argumentative or contrarian, it's about having an internal compass and refusing to dilute yourself to gain approval. Yes, some women will walk away. Good. The ones who stay are aligned with who you actually are. Everyone else would have cost you time and energy. Principle 3. Calibrated presence. Most men operate at extremes, either emotionally distant and unavailable or overly present and suffocating. Both destroy attraction. Calibrated presence is dynamic balance. Machiavelli observed that power often lies in controlled variation, not chaos, but intentional rhythm. Applied to relationships, your availability should fluctuate naturally based on your real life. When you're immersed in a demanding project, your responses are shorter. Your time is limited. When that phase ends, you become more present and engaged. This isn't a tactic, it's reality. That natural variation prevents stagnation. It creates value around your presence because it's not guaranteed, but authenticity is crucial. If you pretend to be busy while emotionally waiting for her attention, she will sense it. Manipulation is detectable. Integrity is not. Calibrated presence works only when your life genuinely has depth and movement. Sometimes you're deeply engaged. Other times, your attention is focused elsewhere. This creates psychological variability, what behavioral science calls intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that keeps people engaged far longer than predictability ever could. But never weaponize this. Let your life create the rhythm naturally. Principle 4. The unshakable standard. This is where many men feel resistance. Having high standards and enforcing them has been framed as wrong or selfish. Most men don't truly have standards. They have preferences that vanish the moment attention appears. They tolerate behavior they resent. They excuse clear warning signs. They abandon their boundaries to avoid being alone. This comes from fear. Fear of scarcity, fear of rejection, fear of believing they deserve better. An unshakable standard means knowing what you accept and acting when it's crossed, not with drama, not with anger, but with calm decisiveness. Immediately, not with anger, not with drama, but with clarity and firmness. Niccolò Machiavelli once wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot have both. Adapted to modern relationships, the principle becomes this. It is better to be respected than adored, because respect creates lasting attraction. Adoration without respect eventually turns into disregard. Here's what that means in real life. If she shows disrespect through words, actions, or consistent neglect, you don't ignore it just to preserve temporary peace. You address it calmly and directly. You say, "This behavior doesn't work for me. I prefer we handle things differently." No accusations, no emotional outbursts, just a clear standard. If the behavior repeats after you've communicated your boundary, you don't argue or over-explain. You adjust your investment. You reduce the time, the energy, and the attention you give. You let your actions reinforce what your words have already made clear. And if the behavior continues even then, you leave. No negotiations, no pleading, no endless second chances. You walk away because your standard matters more than any individual relationship. This ability to leave, this willingness to be alone rather than poorly accompanied, communicates something deeply attractive. It says, I value myself enough not to tolerate what doesn't work for me. My time, my energy, and my presence have real value. Paradoxically, this willingness to walk away often makes walking away unnecessary. When someone realizes you're serious, that your boundaries are firm, and that you're not bluffing, behavior shifts. Respect appears. The dynamic rebalances. But even if that doesn't happen, even if she chooses not to meet your standards, you still gain something far more valuable than a dysfunctional connection. You gain self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of everything else. So what should your standards be? That depends on you. But there are a few universal non-negotiables every man should have. Basic respect in communication. Emotional and physical loyalty. Mutual contribution to the relationship. The ability to handle conflict maturely. Alignment on core values. If these are missing, no amount of attraction or surface-level chemistry can compensate. And the man who understands this, the man who is willing to remain alone rather than compromise his standards, becomes rare, and rarity creates value. Principle 5. Productive tension. This principle challenges the idea that healthy relationships must always be smooth, peaceful, and friction-free. The truth is very different. Relationships without tension aren't calm, they're stagnant. Productive tension is the creative friction that keeps a relationship alive, dynamic, and engaging. This is not constant conflict. It's not chaos or emotional volatility. It's the space between two strong individuals who don't lose themselves in each other but maintain their own identity. Machiavelli understood that absolute harmony is the enemy of growth. Progress comes from friction, from opposing perspectives, from contrast. Relationships follow the same logic. When two people always agree, when there's never disagreement, one of them disappears. They suppress their real thoughts. They sacrifice their real needs. They wear a mask to maintain artificial peace. Productive tension, on the other hand, emerges when two authentic people interact. They won't always agree. They'll see things differently. Their needs will sometimes clash, and that's normal. That's not a flaw. That's proof that two real individuals are present. The man who understands this doesn't run from disagreement. He doesn't rush to fix every uncomfortable moment. He allows tension to exist, to breathe, to reveal what it needs to reveal. Sometimes that tension resolves itself with time. Sometimes it leads to a deeper conversation. Sometimes it exposes a fundamental incompatibility. But in every case, allowing tension is more honest, more mature, and more respectful than forcing artificial harmony. Here's how this shows up in real life. After a disagreement, the insecure man rushes to apologize just to restore peace, even when his position was valid. He smooths things over at the cost of his own truth. The man who understands productive tension does the opposite. He creates space, he doesn't chase, he doesn't beg. He allows both people time to process, reflect, and return with clarity. And often, after that space, the resolution is deeper, more grounded, and more respectful than any rushed compromise. This ability to tolerate emotional discomfort, to not panic at the first sign of friction, communicates emotional strength. It signals that you can stay solid when things are challenging, not just when everything is easy. Principle 6. Proportional investment. The sixth principle is a direct application. Machiavellian strategic thinking, when applied to modern relationships, offers a powerful and often misunderstood insight. Niccolò Machiavelli advised rulers to invest their resources where the return was highest, and to withdraw when it became clear those resources were being wasted. Translated into relationships, this means your emotional time and energy should be invested in proportion to what you receive in return. Not out of cold calculation, but out of self-respect and realism. Most men make the same critical mistake. They invest heavily from the very beginning, giving everything they have before knowing whether the other person has earned that level of investment. They treat every new connection as if it's already a committed relationship. They offer intense attention, constant availability, emotional depth, and effort that should only be earned gradually. And what happens as a result? Either they overwhelm the other person with premature intensity, or they create an imbalance where they are constantly giving more than they receive. Both outcomes lead to the same result. Attraction fades, respect weakens, and the connection collapses. Proportional investment means starting modestly and increasing your investment only in response to what the other person demonstrates. In the beginning, you offer basic attention, respect, and curiosity. You explore, you observe, you evaluate. If she responds with genuine interest, if she invests as well, if she shows that she values what you bring into her life, then you gradually increase your contribution. You give more time, more emotional depth, more effort. But if she does not respond proportionally, if she takes without giving, if she treats your presence as guaranteed, you reduce your investment accordingly. This approach accomplishes two critical things. First, it protects you. You stop wasting your limited emotional resources on people who do not value them. You remain available for those who truly deserve your energy and attention. Second, it creates a healthy and balanced dynamic. When your investment is proportional and conditional, the other person understands something important. Your presence is not automatic. It must be earned through mutual contribution, respect, and effort. This naturally creates reciprocity. So what does this look like in real life? In early interactions, you don't unload your entire life story. You don't immediately reveal your deepest vulnerabilities. You don't rearrange your entire schedule around her availability. You remain measured. You stay present but observant. If she asks meaningful questions, listens attentively, and invests time in getting to know you, you slowly open up more. But if she remains superficial, distracted, or treats your attention as something she's entitled to, you keep things light and limit your involvement. This is not manipulation. This is intelligent self-respect. And high-quality women recognize this immediately. They respect a man who values his own time and emotional energy. They respect a man who understands his worth. Now we arrive at the seventh and final principle, the one mentioned at the beginning. The one so counterintuitive that it may make you uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly why it is the most powerful. Principle 7. Total self-acceptance. You must accept yourself fully and completely without conditions, including the parts of you that society labels as undesirable. Not to become arrogant, not to become self-absorbed, but to reach a level of inner stability so deep that no external validation can shake it. Most men live in a constant state of internal self-rejection. They absorb every social expectation about who they should be, and then relentlessly criticize themselves for not matching that impossible standard. They feel shame around their desires, their fears, their weaknesses, their past failures. And that internal conflict leaks into every interaction. It creates an energy of seeking approval, a subtle but persistent need for validation to compensate for a lack of self-acceptance. And that energy is deeply unattractive. Machiavelli observed that people are often driven by immediate needs, making them vulnerable to influence. But he also understood something more profound. The man who truly knows himself and accepts his own nature cannot be easily controlled. Total self-acceptance means recognizing that you are complex. You have strengths and limitations, light and shadow, desires others may judge, mistakes you cannot erase, and all of it is acceptable. This does not mean stagnation. You can strive to improve while still accepting who you are today. In fact, real growth is impossible without self-acceptance, because true improvement comes from self-respect, not self-condemnation. When you reach this level of acceptance, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing approval. You stop altering your behavior to please others. You stop wearing masks. You become fully, unapologetically yourself. And that authenticity, the absence of neediness, the lack of dependence on validation, is magnetic. In a world where everyone is performing a socially acceptable version of themselves, the man who dares to be real becomes rare. Women feel this instinctively. They may not articulate it logically, but they sense it. They feel they are in the presence of a man who does not need their validation, who is complete within himself, who offers his presence by choice, not necessity. And this changes the dynamic entirely. She is no longer evaluating you. She begins to wonder, am I interesting enough? Am I authentic enough? Do I deserve his continued attention? The balance of power shifts naturally, and that shift does not come from tactics or techniques. It comes from something far deeper, a man who has accepted himself so completely that he has nothing left to prove. Now, a brief recap of the 7 principles. Principle 1. Independent wholeness. Build a life that stands strong without a relationship. Principle 2. Polarizing authenticity. Be unapologetically yourself, even if it doesn't appeal to everyone. Principle 3. Calibrated presence. Let your availability reflect your real life. Principle 4. The unshakable standard. Set boundaries and enforce them consistently. Principle 5. Productive tension. Allow disagreement without fear. Principle 6. Proportional investment. Give in proportion to what you receive. Principle 7. Total self-acceptance. Make peace with who you truly are. These are not techniques to perform, they are states of being to embody. And when they become part of your nature rather than a strategy, you stop chasing attraction. You become it. If this video articulated something you've always felt but couldn't put into words, take action. Like the video. Subscribe to Dark Psyche. Share it with another man who needs to understand that real attraction is not built on surface-level tactics, but on deep internal alignment. In the next video, we'll explore something even more revealing, the subtle signals that indicate when respect is fading and how to restore balance before the dynamic is lost. This is not common content. This is raw, unfiltered psychological insight into power dynamics in relationships. Only those willing to face uncomfortable truths will truly benefit. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, the man who masters his own mind shapes his destiny. The empire of charisma is not a destination, it is a continuous evolution. And you've just crossed an important threshold.